Yeah, we're live. Well, we only missed the little intro stuff.
Okay.
And my basement is still cold, so.
What's going on? You look.
No, I mean I'm in the usually I have a little baseboard heater in here, and but when I'm actually home on time and do everything, I turn it on. And it's nice and toasty, and everything works out. But that's not what happened this time.
Yeah.
We were trying to get some things organized and didn't quite get it organized in time.
Yeah.
That's how it happens sometimes. Oh. So what's going on with you?
Not much.
Sometimes that's
my
good.
last Sunday preaching.
That's right. Yeah.
So the new guy starts. I think I'm not sure who's preaching next week, the 5th, because I don't do first Sundays because I can't do communion. So I'm not sure who's preaching on the 5th, but he starts on the 12th. So so I'm excited to have a little more free time. I remember when I talked to you about doing that job and what I have, and it would.
Right.
I just thought, you were so right.
Right.
That would have been a night. I can't even. I mean, I have so much work. I have so many grants due, and I sometimes have to work at home. And it's like, how did I ever think I would be able to do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have been released. So
That's good.
God heard my plea.
I remember talking. I was in the garden. I was
right. You were. And I was like, yeah, is this gonna work? And now I text Mark because I was thinking I had a wacky link, but I don't know whether he's.
I just texted him too and told him that we're going. Well, I sent an email.
Right, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I sent him I sent him a text just now saying that we're up.
Okay.
And I don't know whether.
And Leonard was gonna. He's also preaching from that text. So.
Yeah.
I ordered the and I don't even know that I'm going to use it. I need to go print it out, but I did get the sanctified art, but I got this current year.
Yeah,
I know
the Seeking one.
You all were going to do. I got Seeking, the new one for this year.
Yeah.
And I know you said you were going to do Wilderness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We'll see how it goes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oops. Well, that would be a perfect segue, I guess.
Yeah, that would be.
Oh, there's Mark.
There's Mark. Okay.
Hey, Mark. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Mark? Mark.
I don't know if he can.
Well.
Oh, there you go.
No,
hey.
He was leaving us in suspense.
Could you hear us?
He was trying to build up the tension.
Tension. All right.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about being late here, but
that's all right. You survived the snow so far?
Yeah. Well, now the first snow we had is almost gone now. I mean, well, not everywhere, but on the roads at least it's all gone. But we're supposed to get more snow this week, I think, if it gets cold enough.
Okay.
It's like right on the edge, like.
Okay.
We're either going to get somewhere between rain and sleet and snow. I don't know which one.
Something's coming.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see.
We're supposed to have 80 degrees on Thursday.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, it'll be 70 tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Mild winter.
Yeah.
They have okay. Well, my email hasn't updated yet. I was going to pull up some of Mark's questions, but anyway, it's all just taking a little bit of time. It's going to be all right.
It's all right.
I have them. I have them up.
Okay. I wonder if I don't know if you can.
I don't know that
can you put them in the chat? Or you can put them in the chat? You can put it in the private chat probably, and I can move them over.
Okay, hold on. How do I do that? Okay, I
don't know. I don't really know what it looks like on your.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me put it in the.
Yeah, see if that works.
All right.
Well, so anyway, I'll just, oh yeah, great. So anyway, hello, everybody else that might be watching, whoever you might be and wherever you might be. We are on a Monday night for real, and we're talking about Matthew for at least this week. Matthew 4, 1 through 11, the temptation in the wilderness. And I think we'll skip reading the text this time because we're already running a little late. But anybody else have anything that jumped right out at them from reading the text or looking at anything?
Okay, I think I've added all of it now.
Yeah.
I guess I read a little, and I pulled it up I read a little of the Left Behind and Loving It.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he brought up, so we did that. I mean, Darren did that once before when we were in Luke.
It's one of those. It's a website kind of.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
Do people still do blogs? I guess.
Yeah. And every Sunday he does a whole thing with the Greek too. So if you're into the Greek stuff, he does all of that, and does some commentary on the passage, the gospel typically the gospel passage for the lectionary. And so I just looked at it because I just glanced at him each week.
Right.
But he talked about, and this is a question I would imagine people have, but maybe they don't, the idea that, because he references the James verse about, God doesn't tempt anyone, but he was, and when we pray the Lord's Prayer, we say, lead us not into temptation, but he talked about, he said at some point we'll have to reconcile those two things. He said, I don't want to pit James against Matthew, but it looks like the Spirit has moved Jesus into the wilderness to be tempted. And how do we reconcile that? God, it says in the James text, it says God does not tempt anyone. And so anyway, that might not be a big concern for people
right
in the pews, but it was something that interested me. I preached yesterday, and so I'm really just getting started looking at this.
Right.
And my questions are always like, what does the church need to hear about this? Because it's, I'm still kind of struggling with.
Yeah.
What is the message I wrote down? What is the message for the people? One thing I did read, I think it's in Anna Case Winters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She talked about the fact that, and I think someone else I read said that too, that Jesus doesn't use his status to his advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we do a lot use our status to our advantage all the time.
Right.
And reconcile, and it
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm inarticulate tonight because I'm
no. I think
that's
no,
right.
I think that's right.
I can't remember if it was Case or was it Carter that talks about that the Greek word translated as if you are can also be since.
Right.
Yeah,
I read that too. So, it's not a question. Yeah. It's really not a question.
Since you are, in all three of those.
Since you are, Not if you are.
It's not like the power. It's not like the power of darkness is challenging the status. It's challenging. Now you have the status. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with it?
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of what the church has to hear, right? You coming out of the baptism, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're basically at this moment of Jesus is at a moment of hearing God speak his name, I mean, hearing God, hearing the voice call him beloved son,
Right.
in whom I'm well pleased. Yeah, he probably doesn't, he shouldn't have any question about his status. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the devil doesn't
Yeah.
seem to either to have any question
Right.
about it. But it's a question of what are you going to do with your what are you going to do with your position, your place as God's beloved? What are you going to do with
Right.
that?
Right.
What's your, if God is, if the creator of all has claimed you,
Right.
and seeks your, seeks your goodness or whatever, seeks you to find goodness and mercy and whatever. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to, try to use it to hoard all the bread and power and
Right.
whatever for yourself, or will you seek to remain faithful?
Yeah.
So that's our question too, right? Because in
Yeah.
our baptisms, we are also claimed as the
Yeah.
beloved.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was
Yeah.
trying to say with that, what I wrote was, I love Carter's analysis of how he talks about the influence of empire, and that Jesus heard, and certainly that first community heard the um the temptation of empire, which is to use their power just to take care of themselves rather than take care of the community. To
Right.
use their power to also to be seduced by the seduction of empire.
Right.
Also too, and
Yeah.
I think that's our challenge too.
Right.
What voices are what voices are we hearing, and are we letting them influence our
Right.
ministry and our direction?
Well, I was having a real quandary this week thinking about, like you try to, basically the problem I think in teaching and preaching in the church is that, like in a Christian church, obviously you're supposed to believe that, Jesus holds some special place, whatever that may be, like from all the extreme to, divine and only one way to the Father through, belief and, whatever, all that, all the way to, just a really nice guy or whatever. But, but when you think about like, how to make a contemporary like example, or, or like you think about like the people of that day, how they saw Jesus, and try to make an analogy, to today, like it's just really crazy. Like the people that come to your mind about who receives status, who is seen as valuable, or who is seen as worthy of emulation. It's pretty nuts, really. Like when you think like the first names that come to mind, like, for a lot of people are all basically like, celebrities are tyrants, like some kind of like, business guru, so to speak, or God forbid we start talking about presidents or something like that, like just the, so when you think about it, it's just kind of like, wow, like what, what, I don't know. It's like, it's really hard to imagine how you get people to think about what Jesus is saying, what Jesus is doing in the context, and how that relates to our context,
Right.
And what that looks like, because there's very few people that fit into that, that even are a approximation, to lift up. Yeah.
I think if Leonard was here, he would also push this in maybe it's not a slightly different direction, but I think it's similar. In terms about hearing alternative voices, I was supposed to be start reading this other book called that he read, Black Church White Theology, and I would argue that one of the voices that that the temptation of the black church is to buy into theologies that don't fit us.
Right. Right.
Yeah, to buy into theologies and norms that don't fit us, whether that be the prosperity stuff, or anything that brings in and sort of worships capitalism
Right.
in any way, shape, or form. So those alternative voices of empire could also be theologies that are harmful at best, or even dangerous at worst.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's not too far.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was saying what I was saying better, that would have sounded pretty similar to what I said. You know, but I think that's the kind of, I guess, I was just particularly struggling with it. Well, last week was Transfiguration Sunday. So,
I was going to say,
so you have like, this allusion to Moses and Elijah, and then Jesus comes along and fulfills kind of their role and takes up their role and becomes, kind of the ultimate, person to look to is, and particularly thinking about Matthew's community struggling with, the temples being destroyed, how do we understand our faith? How do we move forward? How do we, and then this text shows this person, Jesus, and then has this scene, to say basically like, whatever you're looking for, this is the person to look at.
This is it.
This is the way to, this is where you need to look, and so it's like, and so it's like, how do you, I mean, it's easy to say that in the church because everybody knows that you're supposed to believe it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, like that's, but like what that means, like behavior wise and how we live, it's hard to think about how, it directly challenges so many people in so many like you're saying, so many theologies, so many ideologies, so many patterns that are present that go unquestioned, I mean,
and the point you brought up earlier, Darren, about the spirit driving Jesus in the wilderness and he's confronted by the enemy. I think one of the realities of life is, and I think one of the truths of this text is that sooner or later you have to confront the enemy. You can't run from it, So we can say that some folks might say, well, the spirit drove him to be tempted. Eventually, we have to face the enemy, So this is a situation where Jesus did not run from the enemy, but he faced the enemy head on, So and facing the enemy doesn't mean that you have to get into a physical confrontation or a violent confrontation or what have you. But sooner or later, you have to in some way confront the enemy, and it has to be some resolution of that confrontation.
Right.
And I would say sometimes that requires considering the ways that the enemy might be us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
I can't remember like where I heard this or what I was listening to or what I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was something about like the early desert fathers and mothers, that went out into the desert, to and mostly we talk about it as if they, were fleeing from society, and fleeing from civilization or whatever, and then they would go and be in these little caves or or whatever, whatever in the desert. But someone was saying, and I think it was, I don't remember exactly. I'm not going to try to speculate, but someone was saying that part of what it was too is that the people of the time actually believed that like the evil spirits were in the desert.
Hmm.
You know, like so they
Okay.
actually went into the desert to confront the evil spirits. You know, like for the sake of everybody else.
Okay.
You know,
Oh
like
wow.
so you know they were there to do battle in a like in a you know like almost like in a safe space or whatever for you know
Okay.
for the rest you know instead of inviting the demons to come to where they are, they were going out to where the demons were, you know. And I wonder if there's something about what Jesus is doing here, you know, going out into the wilderness to confront,
Mm.
you know, whether we believe it's confronting, you know, what's in himself that might need to be tested and tried,
Right.
or whether it's, you know, to face in symbolic form all of the temptations that he would face as he moves among the people. I don't know
Yeah.
how we want to interpret it, but
I would interpret
you know,
that. Yeah, and I think that some might even make the argument that for Jesus to move forward in his ministry, he had to face whatever demons
mhm.
there may be, whether those demons be within himself. That the wilderness is a place of testing, but it's also a place of growth. I mean, Moses went in the wilderness, and he he had to go there so he could grow, so he could be the person that to go to Pharaoh.
Mhm.
So this is a place for Jesus to do what is necessary for him to grow into the next part of his ministry. So we could look at the wilderness also that way too, as a place of growth.
Yeah.
And growth sometimes means facing the adversary, even the adversary is inside us.
Well, I mean, probably in pretty much every time, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Right. Right.
because you can be faced, even you can even be faced with many, you know, trials and temptations or whatever,
Yeah.
but until you face, you know, the stuff in yourself and the stuff coming at you,
Yeah.
you can't necessarily grow from it. You can experience it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can have all kinds of experiences, but to actually, you know, and I think that goes with something you were saying earlier too, Marcia, because I think like the you know, the Israelites wandering in the wilderness have to unlearn their slave mentality, right? They have
Yeah.
to unlearn all of that. You know,
Yeah.
they have to be kind of like purged of that way of thinking, and they have to build a community and a society together, you know, based on God's leading them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they can't do that. I mean, obviously they can't do that they can't do that in Egypt. They can't do that. They probably can't do that if they already go straight from Egypt
To
into
Canaan.
the promised land. You know,
Right.
they have to
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Going straight, you know, without those 40 years,
Without
it,
that,
Right.
it may not have.
Yeah.
Right. It wouldn't have. Yeah. Yeah. I see that.
Yeah.
I see that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we can even argue that for the church that certainly I think the 2 or 3 years of COVID was in some ways was a wilderness experience.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, for some churches, it was an opportunity to examine practices, examine theologies, examine viewpoints that might have
Right.
been holding it back, and can move
Mhm.
on to that. Hopefully, it was for some churches. Some churches are still struggling with those things, but I think that again, the wilderness can be symbolic of that place in which certainly communities of faith can wrestle with theologies, perspectives that are negative and holding it back. Looking at
Right.
whether it be some certain misogynies or what have you that's holding it back. So
Yeah. No, I hear that.
That's actually
Let's see. I think I've got to paste your stuff into Facebook directly because it doesn't go from this spot to Facebook.
Okay.
So
okay.
just in case it needs to be in there. Yeah. No, yeah, I mean,
So I guess, you know, what is it that you just thinking about what we are saying on Sunday, or what we're thinking about saying? I mean, what is it? I still have Dr. Volz's preaching exegesis form that I, where he talks about all the stuff you have to do. And then you get down to that function statement, and I forgot the other word, but and I still kind of use it in my head. But I think Transfiguration was hard for me yesterday too. Just trying to what is it that I want them to walk away thinking
with.
about? And this is also it's just so easy. Jesus was tempted, so we are. Jesus persevered. We should. I don't know that it's that simple.
Right.
It's always just a struggle to be. Because I think what you said, Mark, is true. We've had COVID. There's just so, and this is probably any Sunday, really. It's just so much. There's just so much. And it's trying to, help people maintain a sense of hope and faithfulness in discipleship, but trying to be honest with kind of the challenges that we've. So I it's just
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, go ahead, Mark.
No, I think that thing about you said about being honest, Marcy. I think as we approach the beginning of Lent, and Lent's a time of introspection and reflection, one of the things that's needed in that period is honesty. Honesty in terms of the struggles that we have individually, the struggles we have as corporately as a community of faith, and being honest about that. I'm certainly. Jesus was in the wilderness. He was hungry. He knew he was hungry. You have to be honest about that. That this was a point of entry of weakness for him. So being honest about the things that we struggle with. I think that's something that we can tell folk, that it's important that we, in this period of reflection, that we'll be honest with ourselves in terms of what's going on with ourselves.
Yeah, I guess for me, the kind of the direction, I guess, that I'm kind of heading in is, just, somewhat what Mark is saying, at the beginning of Lent, can we, can we take this story? Can we take the example of Jesus as, an encouragement for us to really look at who we are, and what shapes us, what we allow to shape us,
and there's always going to be those voices in our ear,
right?
We can't be in denial of those voices in our ear. Right. The thing is to be aware of those voices. I won't say tune them out, but try to find the spirit to continue to drive us, even as those voices continue to yell in our ear. That you might want to look at something else. Think about a different direction.
I don't know. I think it's hard to get it to come across. I struggle with it a lot, but just if people can, if you can just start to question one assumption, that you make about how the world works in light of what Jesus is saying and doing in this text, and in light of how Jesus is tempted, that would, and be committed to really looking at it for 40 days or however long, that would be something, and of course, the thing about it is that Jesus does all of this to prepare himself for ministry. If you want to be of some use in the world, there's some pretty trite kind of, if you have to kind of be well to help people, you have to kind of be in a good space to you have to wrestle with things yourself before you can really minister to others out of that, out of that place. Like, it's hard to take people to a place you've never been. Right. I mean,
Right.
So, if you want to minister to people, in whatever small way you can, you have to be willing to meet. You have to be willing to kind of face some of these things about yourself and really get
Right.
down to who you are
Yeah.
at the core,
Yeah.
and I think that returns again to, I
Mhm.
mean, we, in the series that the way I was shaping the series that we did from the baptism to transfiguration was all kind of bouncing back and forth on this calling of beloved,
Yeah.
Jesus being called beloved at the baptism and at the transfiguration, and then
Right.
the Sermon on the Mount trying to shape us as beloved community,
Right.
together. And so
Yeah.
I think that, part of probably what I will do is to bring in those last bit of
Mhm.
baptism texts and move into the temptation story, and to say, like, knowing who we are claimed as,
Right.
are we willing to,
Mhm.
actually move into a place of really wrestling with what it means for us, and how we live our lives, how we shape ourselves. Because the way I ended the sermon yesterday, was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Feels
I
like
know,
a
right? It's like,
long time ago.
what?
But I mean, and this was, and Leonard really brought this out for me, last time was, how I ended the sermon last week was, Peter wants to make the dwellings.
Right.
Peter wants to make the dwellings so that Jesus stays up there.
Right.
They all stay holy, they all stay spiritual, they all have their nice dwelling,
And they all stay safe, and they're
and
safe.
they all stay in there. They all stay in their
in that one area. Right.
Yeah.
But what I said was, but at the bottom of the hill, there you go. At the bottom of the hill is, is the Father,
Yeah.
whose son is harming himself.
Yeah.
Who's distraught.
Yeah.
Because his son keeps throwing himself in the fire.
Right.
And if Jesus doesn't go down the mountain,
right.
The kid doesn't get healed because the disciples can't do it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it's this, we're at the same place in this text. If we don't take the time to prepare ourselves, to really examine ourselves, to figure out what keeps us from being more compassionate, keeps us from being more open and loving. I mean, what are those things that limit that in our lives? Because we're going to need every ounce of it. Like, we're going to need every ounce of it.
And I think I think a lot of times we struggle with quietness and seclusion and things along that lines. And it's needed. We look at in the wilderness as a negative place, but in one way, it's not a negative place. It's a place where we can wrestle with these issues, wrestle with the enemy, even the enemies inside us, and we need that if we're going to take the next step.
Yeah. Well, I love that line from Leonard.
Yeah.
The temptations are always lies. How can Satan give Jesus what is not his?
Yeah.
Well, I think to what you're saying, Mark, I mean, to push that even further, like, I mean, nothing belongs to evil, right? I mean,
right.
nothing,
right.
Wherever we're at, whatever we're going through, like, we still belong completely and wholly to God.
Mm-hmm.
And the place that we're being drawn into belongs completely and wholly to God. I mean, and it's just when it's when we basically choose to believe that there's something on offer.
Yeah.
In the lies, that we end up in trouble.
Yeah. When we don't see the divine in us, then we fall for the lie. Yeah.
Right.
And that's empire. Empire is always saying that that this thing is good, it's tasty, it's good. But we don't see what we have is already good and blessed,
Right.
then we fall for the deception.
Right. And I think that comes back to, what we were saying, early on, is that, Jesus realizes that what is being, part of what's being asked here is for him to turn in on himself, to try to satisfy, his own needs, pride, desires, or whatever, and not use the time and use what he's been claimed as something that's for everyone else. And I think it's when we get caught up in the lies try to tell us that we're we're in trouble. We got to do we got to do for self, or or it's not gonna it's not gonna work out, or we gotta get to this level and then we can be nice to people.
Right.
Once we amass a certain amount of money, we can then be philanthropic, or it's but in Jesus' temptation in the wilderness, he's alone, but he's not alone, right? I mean, he's drawing everyone else in to say, I'm not gonna let this situation just come down to me. I'm doing whatever I can to make sure that I am ready to share everything with everyone. I mean, and we see that with the loaves and the fish, right? I mean, he doesn't turn the stone into bread, but he'll make a banquet for people,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
8:03. We had a short time. I don't know if you.
Yeah. That was good.
I'm glad I said all that out loud. I mean, I can roll it back and actually think about what I might actually.
Write it.
Yeah.
I probably won't like it once I listen to it.
Wow. Yeah.
I'll have to send you. I'll send you a copy of this. I saw this poem that kind of has that beginning with beloved kind of and moving into the wilderness kind of flow to it that I found somewhere. I don't remember how I found it, but I'll send that out to y'all as well.
So is it from here that we're going to move into John?
Yeah. Yeah, next week we'll have we're gonna show up with Tim Tebow paint under our eyes.
Is that Nicodemus is next week?
Yeah. So we'll be doing John 3:16. We'll have to get it.
I know.
We'll all have it under. I'll have it there.
Okay.
Yeah. So
John. I got Francis's book as well.
Yeah,
I had the one with Jesus. I had the one with Jesus
back to the well. Back to the well.
I had the one with encounters with women, but I did get her book. So.
Yeah, I tried to order some for the church, and they're taking a long time coming. So I don't know. I'm kind of in a little bit of a bind. I got some people that agreed to teach different sections, but they haven't seen the book yet. So
where's the book?
We might be in trouble, but that's all right. Yeah, so we'll do that. And I have I got a couple of different interesting. I got a little interesting resource I'll send out to you all too about that.
Okay.
But,
so it's John 3:1-17.
Yes.
That sounds right.
That sounds right.
John 3:1-17.
Yeah. Is that the lecture? Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Is that the lecture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And I think it's Psalm 121. Maybe.
121.
Oh,
is it 121?
I think so.
It is Psalm 121.
Yeah.
121. Yeah.
Yes.
I try to keep ahead, look ahead.
12.
Dear, which of the other texts are you pairing with the reading? Are you for?
I mean, I'm basically using whatever they told me to.
Okay, because
so, I know
Yeah,
that the Genesis one is this week, and then the Psalm one is next week.
Okay.
And then I don't remember what the other ones are, but I think.
Do you just do the two? You do Hebrew
usually
Bible
just
and
do it. I usually do an old and a new is usually how I do it.
Yeah. So
You know.
So it's the Adam and Eve one, which
Yeah.
I guess pairs nicely with.
It looks like they kind of alternate.
temptation.
They do Psalm 21 with John 3, and then they do Exodus with John 4, Psalm 23 with John 9, and then Ezekiel with John 11.
Okay.
So they kind of just bounce back and forth. Yeah.
Marcy, you recovered from what you gonna take the exam again?
Yeah, in April. Yeah, I was
April?
my
Okay.
my CPM liaison went ahead and did all that I didn't have to do anything.
Oh, that's good.
So I am.
Was there any repercussions behind that thing, or?
I don't know. I know they had a meeting like the next week. There was supposedly a very hastily scheduled meeting to try to address some of the furor that I think I did sign a petition, and I think there was a request for them to apologize, at least make a formal.
Right.
And I don't know that that's happened. I need to go back to my source to see what's going on.
Wow.
Right.
So, but yeah, but my ministry colleague who also took the test, he passed. He passed.
Oh, wow.
And he said, because he told me afterwards, he said, you know what? I knew that was what they were going to pick. He said, because when we did a review session with Dr. Adams, and Dr. Adams was certain that was going to be what it was. And we talked about Gideon and Samson and Jephthah's daughter and Deborah. But I kind of knew it wouldn't be Deborah, because some part of Deborah is in the lectionary, and they never pick a lectionary text because they don't want you to have. So, and Carter said to me, I'm pretty sure they're going to pick the concubine, the Levite and the concubine. And we were just like, no, there's no, and so, but he passed. So.
Okay.
Well, the thing about it is, the one thing about actually taking that test is that, the readers were just kind of like, if this sounds somewhat decent, we got to get at this.
Well, I think that's
we ain't gonna fail nobody on this.
So Dr. Adams posted on the Thursday, because he said he wanted to keep quiet until after the exam closed at noon on Thursday. He said that they should pass everybody. He said, I know this is unprecedented. He said, but whoever turned it in should be passed. He said, because of the egregious nature of putting this test out. He said that.
Yeah.
But I think it's more likely that the readers are like, okay,
imagine most people passed. I mean, because think about if you're a reader,
Well, and they got notice. Remember, the readers got notice that this text is going to be, very disturbing. But
but I don't think there's disturbing, and then there's disturbing. You know what I mean?
Well, that's right. The ministry context, you're teaching a class on unsettling text. And there's unsettling, and there's, rape and dismemberment. So I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. That's absolutely crazy.
All right.
So anyway. All right, guys.
All right, y'all. Yeah. Y'all next week. Bye, y'all.
Thanks for hanging around, even though I was a little late. I appreciate it. And good to see you. Good to see you in the chat, Leonard.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Talk to y'all.
See y'all next Monday.